Welcome to Tinkerz Lab, and they left me unsupervised again. These foolish people. Okay, so I'm here to introduce you to some of the best open source and free applications that are available anywhere. Many of these applications I've been using myself for, about 25 years. So I've been using open source applications almost exclusively for about 25 years now. And in episode 1, I want to introduce you to photo editing, illustration, and desktop publishing software that is open source and free. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the difference between open source and free software. All open source software is free software, but not all free software is open source. And the name means exactly what it says, open source. So not only can you download the application, but you can download the source code to the application. You can modify the source code, enhance the source code, add features to the application, and then share that back with the developers so everybody benefits from those enhancements or modifications or additional features. That's the way open source works. And it's created by a worldwide community of engineers and programmers and artists. And the thing that I like best about open source software is it's user-centric. It's developed by users for users. So they don't try to lock you in to an application by using a proprietary format where you can't export it easily to say you wanted to move from product A to product B. A lot of commercial software will try to lock your data in to their application and make it very difficult or impossible to move that data to a competing application. So that's the thing that I love best about open source software, is your data belongs to you and no one else. So before I start showing you these applications, I assume you probably would be interested in seeing some of the things that you can create with it. And also I'll show you just a few items that I have created with this open source software. Okay, so what I have up on the screen right now is a book cover that I made for a Christmas photo book. And this one is from 2019. I've made about 8 of these so far. I've been doing that for about 8 years. So I produce these photo books for Christmas every year and then hand those out to family members. So this is the book cover that I created for that book, and I did this in an application called Inkscape. And Inkscape is one of the open source applications that, for desktop publishing and things, it's one of the applications that I use most. Okay, here's a project that I completed in Inkscape. And this is an encoding decoding wheel. So I put this together to print out and assemble and give to my grandkids so that they could encode messages and decode messages to each other, so the adults didn't know what was going on. All right, so this is a document that I will have a link to in the show notes. It's a single-page PDF document that you can download. The URLs that are embedded in the document are clickable, so it describes the applications that I'm going to discuss today. And then it provides the embedded link. So you can click the link and it will open up your web browser and take you to the application web page so that you can download it and install it in your system. And it shows you, free and open source. Almost all these applications will run on Linux, they'll run on Windows, they'll run on Mac OS. My operating system is Linux. But I also like the fact that these applications run on multiple platforms, because there might be a time where I actually have to use Windows. And so it's nice to be able to use the same applications on Windows that I use on Linux. Or if you have a Mac, it's nice to be able to use the same application no matter what operating system you're working on. Okay, so and then the next one. This document was desktop publishing. This was actually created in LibreOffice Impress, which is their presentation software. But I also found it's excellent for doing desktop publishing, because you can make your slide any size you want. So I just made this letter size, 8.5 by 11. I created my border. I put in my background. I created the logo at the top and the gears at the bottom in the Inkscape application, and then just formatted and laid out everything else in Impress. And it works extremely well, not only for digital presentations, but it also works excellent for desktop publishing. Okay, the next one. Okay, so here's my banner that I created in Inkscape that I use for my YouTube channel. It's what you see on our YouTube channel page for our banner. And here's a secondary banner that I made for it. The logo was created in Inkscape, as I stated before, and the gears were created in Inkscape. Okay, so let's talk about the first application, which is called GIMP. And we're going to use GIMP, refer to it. GIMP stands for GNU Image Manipulation Program. That's a mouthful. So we're just going to call it GIMP. But GIMP is the photo and image editing software. So everybody takes digital photos, whether it's with a professional camera, an amateur camera, your phone, your tablet, whatever. You're going to need photo editing software. And GIMP is in I think in a category like Photoshop. You can use multiple layers. You can correct the lighting in the image, the contrast, the brightness. You can remove red eye. You can cover up blemishes in the image. It supports transparency, so you can do image compositing in GIMP. I use GIMP constantly because I take a lot of digital photographs, as you could see by the book cover that I showed you earlier. I take and edit a lot of photos during the year, and the GIMP is the application that I use it for. So, and it has a vast number of photographic filters. It does batch processing. It has tons of filters and effects for the images, and you can import and export in tons of different formats. You know, like I said, open source software lets you keep your data and transpose your data the way you want to. So I can export it in just about any image format you could think of, and you can print your images from within GIMP. You can export them to PDF file. It's just an extremely versatile and fantastic and full-featured photo and editing software. Okay, and the next application I want to talk to you about, and I've already mentioned it 2 or 3 times, which is Inkscape. And Inkscape is a vector image creator and editor. So, you know, it's for illustrators, designers, web designers, or, you know, someone who wants to create some kind of vector imagery. And vector imagery, you know, digital photos are what's called raster image, where the image is made up of tiny little dots, different colored dots that make up the image. And the larger you scale up that image, the less detail, the less clarity you have. Everybody who's scaled up an image has seen that. Okay, well, Inkscape uses a vector image format. And what that means is the image isn't created with those little dots like a raster image is. It uses a mathematical formula with like lines and arcs and circles and shapes to describe and create the image. So with a vector graphic image, you can create an image that's the size of a postage stamp, and then you could scale it all the way up to the size of a billboard, and it will not lose any clarity. So if you're going to create something like clip art, which is what I use it for, if you're going to create logos, if you're going to create text that you want to be able to scale up and down as large or as small as you want without losing any clarity, then that's the application that you want to use. And I use it for web graphics. I use it for illustration. I use it for clip art. I use it to create embellishments for my photo books, because it also creates images with transparency, and it also creates, you can use layers to layer your images. You can use it for logos and flyers and posters and banners and book covers, and I've used it for almost all of those projects. And it's another application where you can export it in many different image file formats, and you can also export it in PDF. Almost all these applications have a built-in PDF exporter. So that's what Inkscape is used for, and it is absolutely fantastic. Inkscape and GIMP. I use those two applications probably more than any other applications when I'm doing graphic and desktop publishing. All right, the next application is Scribus. It's a page layout for desktop publishing. More professional layout tool. Now, I've played around with it a little bit, but I think that you need some knowledge about, professional layout in order for it to be not so overwhelming, I guess I would say. It is very highly rated software for what it does, but its primary publishing features are for professional publishing. So it has color management built into it. It has powerful vector drawing tools. So for printed and digital publications, it's used for newspaper production, magazine production, books, manuals, manufacturing, artwork, and packaging. So if you were someone that was in the business of producing a digital publication on a regular basis, Scribus is what I would be looking at. All right, so the next application, and I showed you some examples of LibreOffice Impress. And later on, we'll go through the writer application, the spreadsheet application, and the database application that's also included with LibreOffice. It's a complete productivity office suite. So I will be going through those other applications that are included in LibreOffice at a later time, and maybe in the next video that I release. But the Impress is like the PowerPoint application, open source PowerPoint application. You can use it for digital slideshows, but you can also use it like I use it for desktop publishing, and it excels in both areas. So everybody's going to need that type of application from time to time. So for screen slides and presentations, desktop publishing, flyers, posters, banners, book covers, which is what I've also used it for, many desktop publishing projects, and again, it supports many formats that you can export to, including PDF. And then last but not least is LibreOffice Draw. And that's more for technical documents. So if you're going to do like anybody who's purchased a product that requires assembly, where they have assembly diagrams and pictures in there, or whether it's a flow chart or a decision tree, or like I said, for some type of manufacturing document, a more technical rather than graphical type document is what LibreOffice Draw would be used for. So for things like brochures, manuals, technical drawings, flowcharts, diagrams, posters. So that's where that excels. So whether you're doing a more graphic type of desktop publishing, Impress, or whether you're doing a more technical type publishing, LibreOffice Draw. So with those two applications, they have both of those types of desktop publishing covered. Okay, so not only am I going to be introducing you to the best open source applications that I have used over the years, free software that I have used over the years and that I use on a continuing and constant basis to get my work done, I am also going to be producing tutorials on how to use all this software. So if you guys are interested in that, if you're interested in learning how to create freely and to have tutorials that will show you how to do that, then don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so that you're notified when we release the next video. All right, so thank you guys much for watching, and remember, create freely.